everyone, I'm Crystal Diff, Program Coordinator with History Services, and today I'm going to be interviewing Sushila Cherian today on all of her efforts in Charlotte County through her volunteering and also being a longtime resident of the area. She's going to tell us a little bit about her life. So thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome, my pleasure.
And first of all, I wanted to congratulate you on your very own day. So we have the Charlotte County Board of County Commissioners actually made a proclamation. They accepted the proclamation for Sushila Cherian Day on April 19th, 2021. And we have your proclamation here.
Yes.
So how does it feel to be recognized for Sushila Cherian Day?
Well, actually, it was a tremendous shock. I mean, I know that's what people say normally, but it genuinely was a huge shock. And then I thought about it, and my next question was, why? And then when I was actually listening to the proclamation, you know, the whereas, and then the whereas, and several whereases,
Yes.
I actually thought to myself, did I really do all that? You know, that was the funny thing. So, no, I realize it's a great honor, and I really do appreciate that very much. But, and there you are, you know, that's it.
Yes, and you had a large crowd of people in the chamber that day, so we were all cheering you on. So just seeing that many people in there, you can really tell how much of an impact that you had in just so many different areas in Charlotte County. You're very important to us.
It's nice of you to say that, Crystal, but the thing is, you remember the standing ovation that happened?
Yes.
I actually thought for a minute or two that someone important was coming in.
It's you.
I looked around to see, I too stood up and looked around, and then someone said, that's for you.
Yes.
And that was really a heart-stopping moment. But I really appreciated that and appreciated the honor.
Oh, I'm glad. We wanted to show that we appreciate you. So, did you grow up in the area here? And you know, if not, where is your hometown? And how did you get to choose Charlotte County as your home?
That's a good question. I was actually born, raised, and educated in Singapore. And I left when I got married and traveled around. I just followed my husband, I guess. We went to England first, and then we moved over here. And here we landed in New York, Brooklyn actually. And then we sort of traveled down. My husband wanted an independent practice. He was an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, and he wanted an independent practice. And he got that down here in Punta Gorda. It was exactly what he wanted. Small town America. And the weather was sort of on the same parallel as India. So he was a happy camper. And eventually I was too.
Yes. Yeah, the weather usually brings a lot of people down here.
Yes.
We hear that a lot. So once you got into the area, how did you start volunteering?
That is another good question. I'm trying to think back what it was. You see, normally I do that wherever I go anyway. And the first place that I visit is always a library. And a library is a fund of information. And usually most of the libraries that I've been to, whether it's in India or England or here, there is a notice board. And I peruse the notice board, and there's always interesting things going on. And there is always a notice saying that they need somebody for something.
Yes.
And that's how it starts.
Yes.
And then you get to know the people, you get to know the librarian. And I'm a book lover anyway, so it was no difficulty at all for me. So
yes, everywhere you go, you have your books with you, we know.
Yes, that's, you know, I actually have it with me as well.
Of course.
Just in case I have to wait, you see. There's always meetings, somebody's late, you have to wait, and I have to have something to read. Even if it's a railway timetable, I have to have something to read.
Yes. So what were some of the groups that you have worked with in Charlotte County over the years?
Oh dear. I think it would be easier for me to say the group that I have not worked with
Okay.
No, it's seriously, because I think I've got a thing. I think I've worked with pretty much every single group. Either I've been on their board of directors, or I have been on a committee doing something for that particular organization. The only group where I have not had my finger in the pie, so to speak, is the animal welfare people, because I'm besotted with animals. I live alone. There is nobody to say no to me, and it's a very dangerous situation. I will start by fostering them. I know my weakness, and I'll end up with, 56 cats and the health department and home being condemned. And I mean, it sounds extreme, but I know my weakness, and it's a very dangerous thing to live where nobody can say no to you. It's not good.
I understand.
Yes.
I've been in, I volunteered at some animal shelters before, and I worked in pet stores where people are trying to surrender their animals, and a lot of them did come home with me. So I can completely understand that issue.
But I know that you have a couple of children, so there is
I
no
do.
real danger. The children will say, "Mom, you had 2 cats, and how come you have 11 now?" So, there are no guardrails for you, for normal people. Whereas I don't have those guardrails, and I have to watch out for myself. No, but apart from that, I volunteer. Think of any group, and I would have volunteered.
And that's why you have so many whereas on your proclamation here.
Yes, I was.
I think that's a good way to answer that question. I think that we all agree that you've been a part of almost every single volunteer organization in our area.
This is true. I've immersed myself in this community, and my soul is invested in this community. And it sounds extreme, perhaps, but it is true.
Mm-hmm. And about when did you start volunteering in the area?
Well, the year after I arrived here, I came here in '83.
Okay.
And from '84 onwards, I was doing something.
Right.
And Rex Koch, I don't know if anybody, you remember him or you know who he is. Yeah, well, he was a very prominent person, an attorney here in town. And we met each other somewhere, I forget where, in some social function. And he invited me for breakfast. But in those days, I was a little innocent, you see. So I went to breakfast to the Carl Amer restaurant, which was in City Marketplace. It's no more now. Mm-hmm. And so we had a good breakfast, and then he broached the subject of being on the board of the American Cancer Society. And my immediate question always is, what do I have to do? What are my responsibilities? Right. I mean, I'm never a figurehead on any board. Everybody who knows me knows that. But then I gradually got wiser and wiser. Okay. And anytime anyone invites me for a meal, I get extremely suspicious. So, no, but anyway, that's how it started. My very first was the Cancer Society.
Mm-hmm. So, aside from being a volunteer in our area, you can be quite the daredevil. Can you tell me about your most daring fundraisers you've participated in?
Yes. It was actually, I rappelled down the SunTrust building, and I'm told that's the tallest building. And every time I drive by it now, I'm appalled. I didn't realize it was that tall, and that high. And before I agreed to volunteer, I actually interviewed Diane Ramsey, because I wanted to know where the money was going.
Right.
Fortunately, she didn't get annoyed. We met at Panera's, and I quizzed her a lot. I wanted to know, where is this money that I'd be raising going, because each one of us had to raise money, raise the funds.
Okay.
And so she explained to me, and I was quite satisfied, because the idea of little 19-inch, little tiny babies being born addicted to cocaine and things, and shaking and seizures and all of that, that should not happen. Mm. So the money was going towards hiring more people, hiring more nurses, nursing staff. So that sat well with me.
Yeah.
And so I went up there, and right up on top. They gave us a 15-minute practice. It was a little makeshift rappelling thing, which was nothing to do with the real thing, of course. And then they harnessed me and buckled me up and everything, and they sat me on the wall, on the edge of the wall, and there were these lovely two gentlemen, heavily tattooed, and with some sort of chains on them. And they lifted me up onto the wall, and at that moment, I didn't want to do it. Too late.
Yeah,
so I said, are you sure? And this little baby voice comes out from somewhere. They're going, Sushila, you'll be fine. You'll be just fine. And they were about to throw me over, and this little baby, okay. And over I went. But then they say that I rappelled quite well.
Yes.
And friends of mine, Scott and Jill, were videotaping me and took pictures of me, and it went well as far as I was concerned.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't faint or anything like that. So it was for an excellent cause, and I'm very, very happy about that. So.
Yes, we were all very proud of you for doing that as well. We were very shocked, like, oh, is she really going to do that?
Well,
and then just very proud that you did, and you made it into the newspaper, and we have photos of you. So.
Yes. And not only that, the very next month, I decided to jump out of a plane.
Yes.
At 13,000 feet. But that was not a fundraiser. That was just for me. It was on my bucket list, so I decided to get rid of that.
You know, after you rappelled off the building, you got the courage to go even higher.
Yeah. No, it's been on my bucket list for over 20 years.
Okay.
And my husband had said, over my dead body. So. Yeah.
Did your educational background or experience lead you to certain fields in volunteer work? No. Did nothing at all. I have a general arts degree. And when I came to America, when I was in England, I did a audiology course at London's Gray's Inn Road, and I worked for a year as an audiology technician, you know, testing hearing and so on. I was just interested in anything that was going. And then when I came to America, I decided to do a course and took computer programming and accounting. Never done that before in my life, but it was something new and exciting, so I did that. Nothing in my educational background propelled me towards any particular volunteer service at all. It was just something that I did. And the next question usually people ask me is, were you always, I mean, why do you do what you do? And I just thought it was just me, you know, that I suddenly got this notion. But I'm thinking that it is because of my parents and my mother, because, you know, growing up, she used to have what is known back then in the Far East as feeding the poor. Okay. I didn't know the word homeless at all. We didn't have that there. But the poor we had plenty of in Singapore at that time. Of course, now, of course, it's a very different story, Singapore. So we used to have a day, I think twice a year probably. And those were the day pre-internet, pre-cell phone days. I have no idea how word got around, you know. The grapevine worked very well. So on that particular day, there would be hordes of people sitting on mats on the grass in our yard, on the floor, and eating off of the first disposable plates in the world, which are banana leaves. Mm-hmm. And they ate our banana leaves. That's very common. And then, of course, after you finish eating, you just dispose of the leaves. And they ate with their fingers. And so it was incumbent upon me as the daughter of the house to serve them. So these huge vats of vegetarian biryani, which is a rice and vegetable dish or rice and meat dish, and lentil curries, I used to have to serve them. A servant would be carrying the pot of food, and I'll serve them. You have to bend down at floor level to serve them. And that was a must. My mother made sure that we did that. And so I'm thinking probably that is where this idea, nothing
was told to me, but that's where I think by a process of osmosis I realized, because we had a very, very incredibly privileged background. So I think that's where by a process of osmosis I got the idea that there was another side to people's lives, that there were the have-nots as well, without anybody telling me that, you know. So I have a feeling that's where it all started, I'd like to think. So.
All right, so my next question is, what about your work do you find the most rewarding?
I think everything that I do, I'm trying to think most rewarding. Everything that I do, I enjoy, I have fun. Nothing is more important or more rewarding than the other. So that's a difficult question to answer.
Well, and I think you answered it a little bit in the last question, where it's just, this is something that you do, it's kind of innate for you to do, and you just automatically enjoy, you know, helping out in certain organizations. So
getting involved in the community, I think, you know, I've never felt that I'm handing out largesse or anything like that at all. It's just being involved in the community.
Okay. So since you've been here for a decent amount of time, how has the community changed in the last 10 years?
Oh, it's changed tremendously. First of all, when we rolled into town, there was absolutely no such thing as the mall.
Yeah.
I mean, zero, nothing. Cow pastures. We actually saw a few cows wandering around too. So that was number one, of course. And we didn't see too many children. I don't know whether we had as many primary schools then or not. You know, it just seemed to be elderly people, you know. That was my impression anyway. And then, of course, the major changes are, Charlie did a number on all of us, and City Marketplace is simply not the way it was. We had, I know if I say this, there are people who will remember Alexander's Hair Salon, a barber shop, Carl Amer's restaurant in a corner, and let's see, the Dairy King, Eckerd's, the dollar stores, and a bookstore, Bell's Outlet, all of that was in a row over there. None of that is there anymore. It's just a large empty space. And the other thing that was a major, massive change was Promenades Mall.
Yeah.
It was a delightful little place with individual shops like Cook's Nook, Mr. and Mrs. Ward. They had everything under the sun for the kitchen. And I had struck up a friendship with them. Not that I cook or anything like that, but that was my fundraising thing. There was a lovely bookshop which had to close once Walmart and places like that started selling books. There was a dress shop. Those kinds of individual, those all went by the wayside. So that had nothing to do with Charlie, though.
Right, yeah, just the changes over time.
That's
and
right.
More people coming in, different businesses coming in. We do like to say in the history department here, it's BC before Charlie and then after Charlie, because of the big impact that it had on the area, where it, you know, literally destroyed buildings to, you know, they don't exist anymore at all. The building doesn't stand anymore. So you can really see how important pictures and memories are when things like that happen to an area, because otherwise you would never know that it existed.
True.
So yeah, we love hearing the memories of people here in the area too.
And I went around, post-Charlie, I went around taking photographs of the Punta Porta Herald shop, store in Sullivan Street.
Yeah.
But that's no more now. So things like that I took around. The Sunloft building.
Yes.
That was brand new, and that was the previous thing was completely destroyed.
I think Hurricane Charlie is probably one of the most prevalent items that we have in our collections, possibly in other, you know, Punta Gorda history groups as well, because it had such a great impact on the area. So many people like yourself went around to take photos of things that they knew were destroyed or changed. And we really appreciate
And
that.
Charlie, most people think of it as a destructive force. Well, it was in one. But
Right.
I'd like to think of Charlie as a change maker.
Yes.
And that's the only way that I can hold on to it without getting furious and all of those negative emotions, because Charlie was a change maker. I would have preferred it if it had a female name, but it didn't, so there you are.
Yeah, and that's how we talk about that as well too. And there's so many new buildings, and sometimes it was an opportunity. It created a lot of opportunity as well. So yes, you can look at it in that way, not just as a destructive force, but like I said, before Charlie, after Charlie, just major differences in Charlotte County, and especially Punta Gorda and the Charlotte Harbor area. So can you share a success story that just surprised you? Maybe something you thought wouldn't work, or...
Oh, you mean it's connected with fundraising? Is that okay?
Yeah,
because most of my life I just plod along doing the normal stuff. But fundraising is my thing. It's meat and drink to me. It was. For 20 years I was in the nonprofit world. And the people who know me know that, I like fundraising, and I sort of very low-key about it. No, but it is true. I'm extremely low-key. And even the letters that I write to people, to vendors, to merchants, and so on, it's always handwritten.
Do you take people to lunch or breakfast too?
Never. That is my point of pride. Thank you for bringing that up. That is a great point of pride. Not once have I schmoozed anyone by taking them to lunch or dinner. And you're welcome to contradict that, because never have I done that. No. But I know that is called networking. I network in a different way. So apparently I had a talent for it. Who knew? I never went to school for marketing or anything like that, but it was just something that came to me in middle age, and I just enjoyed it a lot. And the success story we're coming to, the surprise story for me was, I don't know whether you were here at the time, the Impact Building where the Military Heritage Museum is now, was the Impact Building before. And they had a huge boat, I hope I can call it a boat, huge one, called the Taipan. And Skip Mansfield was at that time, now all of them, Skip and Jane Mansfield, have passed away, I think. So he was there in charge. And someone, during fundraising, I sort of tossed it out in the committee. I said, wouldn't it be nice if we could get the Taipan as an auction item? Auction is my thing. It's just I get all excited. That's an odd thing to say. But so they said, oh, Sushila, what are you talking about? You will never get the Taipan. That's all too big for us. That's all I need to hear for anyone to say no to me. And then, there I... Yeah. So I put on my suit of armor, so to speak, and I wrote to Skip. Handwritten, very brief, usually these begging letters. I mean, you cannot go on and on 2 and 3 pages of the wonderful things you're doing. It just goes into file 13. So very briefly I said who we are, why we need the money, and what we're going to do with it. And could you please, it'll be, wonderful as an auction item, and so on and so forth. That's it, 1 page, and I actually mailed it off. And so we were at a meeting, and suddenly there was a commotion in the office. It turns out, you'll never believe it, Skip is on the line. They're giving us the Taipan. And for 20 people, completely everything found. It was a huge cocktail party. And you can bring in 20 people. The only thing that they required was some special shoes to put on the deck.
Right.
That was the only thing. But it was going to be a very formal or semi-formal cocktail party. Of course, I didn't attend that. I don't know why. I'm not into cocktail parties. But anyway, so, but it was a huge success. And nobody could believe it. And best of all, I couldn't believe it either. So that was a very pleasant surprise. And it teaches you, fundraising is nothing but building relationships.
Right.
That's all it is. So if you build a relationship, especially in a small town like this, you could go back with the begging bowl every year. and they recognize you immediately, and you have a little chat and so on. And Mr. and Mrs. Ward from the Cook's Nook, remember? Oh, we got along like a house on fire. He gave me every year, it was a bigger and better auction item. And so
yeah, and sometimes you just need to ask, and you never know whether somebody is interested, and they may not know that it's even happening.
Exactly.
So it's not necessarily that, you know, the interest isn't there. They're just not aware that it's happening. So yeah, having that conversation with multiple people, and you know, it never hurts to ask, right?
I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
And what the worst that anybody can say is no, and you never take it personally. So you know.
Keep moving on to your other contacts in your network.
Exactly. I've trolled 41 so many times.
Yes.
So no, that was my success story. That just popped into my head. The success. I was very, very pleased about that, and so was the committee, the auction committee. They were just delighted.
Yeah.
You know, so that was good.
So you have spent so much of your life, so much of your time volunteering, and we did hear that you went skydiving. Is there anything else that you do for fun? Do you have time for fun?
I have a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sure I do, except that I just can't think of any at the moment. But books are a passion with me, and my hobby, I suddenly realized that my hobbies are all solitary ones. That must tell me something about myself. Is reading, listening to music, and I love solving mathematical puzzles. That's meat and drink to me. I've always been a math fiend. And let's see, I collect antique Bibles, I used to, which came to a sad end because I had a huge collection of antique Bibles collected from England, brought over here, collected some more here in Albany of all places. And so I had them all ready to be displayed appropriately in the house. Packed them all, and they were in the garage when Charlie hit. And after the melee and confusion, and I was displaced and everything, I forgot. And you know what happens to books.
Yeah.
Totally destroyed. Totally destroyed. My earliest Bible was marked 1791, and it was written in Old English.
Wow.
So I just don't know. That was a sadness.
Yeah.
I couldn't bear to throw it away. I never trash books. I never throw them away. So my friend, very good friend, she said, I'll do it for you. And she put them all in the trash. And some of them had those brass bindings, you know, with the lock and everything.
Yeah.
So that was a sad thing. But
yeah. Florida isn't always the easiest place to store items or artifacts. It's
and
very
definitely
humid here.
Not paper in garages. Definitely not.
Paper is the hardest hit here with all the humidity and bugs and heat that we have here, and the storms that come through. It really is difficult, and a lot of items are lost over time.
Yes.
So. Yeah, it's difficult. We do our best to save as much as we can.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. I should have got them inside the house, but I just never got around to it, and I paid the price, a heavy price. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we try to get the word out and help people like yourself to try to figure out different ways that they can house items. And most of us put everything in the garage. You know, that's where we store everything, but it's usually the first place things get affected. So.
That's right.
Yeah, we try to help everybody out that we can. So, you've worked with a lot of people. What individuals have really just positively influenced your work with the community and volunteering?
You know, I would like to say everybody that I've come in contact with. I cannot think of anybody who did not help. Of course, I don't get involved with the wide circle. I keep it small. If it's a committee, I work only with the committee. If it's the board, I work only with the board. So I don't know that there was anyone in particular. I seem to get on with pretty much everybody this is something I discovered about myself because I'm such a loner growing up. I didn't think I'd get on with anybody, you know. But you find, and my upbringing was different as well. You know, we didn't have, growing up, we didn't have things like sleepovers and stuff like that. I mean, my parents just, we led extremely sheltered lives. So I just grew up a loner, that's it. And I was quite happy with that. But after marriage and coming here and so on, I get along very well with everybody, as you, I'm sure you can attest to that. But I don't necessarily seek out company. That's another thing I have to confess, is people, they are so upset about the COVID loneliness and all of that sort of thing. They just, and there are mental health issues with some people, being stuck at home and all of that. Well, I'm as happy as a clam. There's something odd about that.
Just nice, relaxing, you know, you can be home a little bit more.
No, it has nothing to do with home. It's just that I want to be by myself. I can be in a closet.
Yeah.
You know? But it doesn't matter where I am.
Yeah.
But, you know. And that's an odd thing, considering that I do get along so well with people when I meet them. And so I just puzzle. I'm puzzled about myself, but there you are.
Well, you're passionate about your community, so you contact people and you work with people very well because you have that shared commitment, you know, that shared passion with other people. So I can see that, but then, you know, once that is over, then you just like to spend time by yourself, and you
like
know,
that snail, you know.
Yeah.
Not good.
So what are some challenges that you face now in continuing some of your work?
The biggest challenge now has been COVID, of course, because my calendar used to be black almost. I mean, you've seen it before. And the other thing was, I never felt tired, physically, I mean, never, ever. I am up in the morning, I mean, I'm out of the house by 8, and then sometimes it's a late evening. And after that, if anybody wanted to go for a long walk on the harbor walk, I was up for it. And so I was blessed that way. It is a blessing, that kind of level of energy. So, what was the question again?
It's okay. What are some of the challenges that you face going forward?
Regarding volunteering?
Regarding volunteering, yeah.
The only challenge is the fact that COVID has put a stop to a lot of my activities, a lot of them. But slowly I'm beginning to stick my toe in the water, so to speak, because I'm still afraid of being in enclosed spaces. I started volunteering with the symphony. They had the first 2 concerts were at the Sculpture Gardens.
Okay.
It's wide open. It was open, and everybody was masked and gloved, and so. And I was volunteered to be a ticket taker. We were not allowed to touch the tickets. The patrons had to show the tickets, and we just had to check that the right colored star was there on the ticket, you know, to show it was the right date. So I enjoyed that, and the minute it was over, I was back home. I mean, I hopped in the car and left, and it was the same thing. The next concert was over at Tiki, not at the bar, but at the open space.
Right.
That was wide open space, fresh air, beautiful day. Same thing again. So like that, I'm slowly sticking my toe in the water, so to speak, and then we'll see. I still haven't started with the clinic. That was I loved the clinic. I mean, so that's a little bit of, I'm careful because it's an enclosed space, and with this new variant that has popped up, and I live alone, so I don't have any family or relations here. So I have to look out for myself very carefully, because I had a terrible time with COVID last year when I got it. So other than that, I haven't found any particular challenge at all. So.
Yeah, I think COVID is going to be the biggest challenge for a lot of people right now.
For a lot of people. And now, of course, the biggest thing for me is I seek out, and I think most of us should as well, I seek out people who are really hurting, and there are a lot of people in the community.
All right, so what particular skills or talents do you have that have been the most essential with the work that you do?
That really is an easy one for me. talents that I didn't know I had. And I don't know whether anybody out there in the community feels that same way, that they discover something in yourself in middle age. It's a very exciting thing. Soon after my husband died, the first Christmas was very, very difficult for me, extremely difficult, because we did Christmas in a huge way. My house screamed Christmas, inside and out. And so that was a difficult. So I thought, how can I help myself? Because everybody's busy with their own lives. So I love wrapping things, you know, and I'm very good at it. I do fancy wrappings and so on. The only place that did wrapping was Bell's department store, where well, there was a vacancy. So, and I've never worked outside the home in a retail establishment at all, ever. Growing up, all of you American kids, you're always pumping gas or doing something, waitressing or something. I've never done that, ever. So anyway, I applied for it and got the job and did the interview and everything, and there I was, wrapping away to my heart's content. I mean, I just, it was heaven to me. And of course, my American friends and my Indian friends couldn't believe I was working in a store. So they all came to look, and they all bought something, and they all wanted me to wrap. So the Bells, the coffers, I think, were quite full because of me for a short period of time. So anyway, I surprised myself. Now, after December 24th, that was it. It was a Christmas thing. So I thought, I'd pack up my bags and, you know, go home. And so the manager said, would you like to stay on to work for us? And I said, no, I don't think so, because I assumed it was the cashier's position, and I have no idea how to work those machines. So they said, no, we want you to be a customer service coordinator. Fancy word for walking around, you know, with a clipboard and trying to help customers. I said, you know, you try it for a month. So I said, okay, I'll try it for a month. What do I have to do? No, you just help customers. You walk around and you help. And those years, Bell's was in Promenades Mall. And they had, so there I was with my clipboard. I did what I was told. I was walking around the aisles and everything, happy as a clam. And all of a sudden the manager calls me and she said, Sushila, you have to actually go inside the racks and help people, ask if they need help or anything like that. I was walking on the perimeter, you know, along the passageways. So I actually said, and this is a standing joke, it has gone down in the annals of Bell's law. I actually, you mean without being introduced? When I think of it now, I have to hang my head in shame. I actually said that. She must have thought to herself, where did this dipstick come from, you know? So they must have had a wonderful time that afternoon in the staff lounge, I'm sure. Do you know what that girl said? So anyway, but after that, after she told me this is what you do, you go up inside the racks, and anyone who's standing looking up at a piece of clothing, you ask, how can you help, and all of that kind of a thing. After that, apparently I was one of their best employees. Wow. I didn't know I had that talent, because remember, I considered myself a loner. Right. And so that surprised me a lot, how with the ease with which I could communicate with people. That was something that was very surprising to me. I discovered something about myself. And at one time they put me in the front, right in the, we were supposed to get, at the entrance, we were supposed to get emails from customers. Okay. And I do not believe in that at all. At all. Yeah. So since I was an employee, I said very low-key, sort of, and I collected some signatures, email address. Every time they were writing the email, my mind was screaming, don't give your email. You will be inundated with all kinds of offers. So of course I didn't say anything like that. The next staff meeting, there was a discussion about, you know, how many emails did you get? So all of the girls at the registers were complaining, you know, nobody wants to give their emails. And well, says the manager, anyway, who got the most? And they all said, well, 10 and 15 and 25 and so on. So the manager says, no, there's someone here who's got much more than that. Well, how much then, and who is it? 423 emails. Sushila I tried to hide behind the refrigerator because, you know, some women don't like other women. I got a lot of hateful looks, you know, so I just sipped my whatever coffee, and I was very embarrassed because I never made any effort, you see. I tried to dissuade people. I didn't say anything at all. I just said, would you like to see? I was so low-key, I think they didn't feel threatened at all.
There you go,
you know?
yeah.
So that was another success.
Yeah.
Surprise, you know, you surprise. I don't know whether you've had that experience. You surprise yourself.
Yeah, that you can.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that you're good at a certain task and you didn't think that you were good at.
Didn't at all. So. And the other thing, of course, is my fundraising. How I just took to it like a duck to water. Now all of those. In case anyone out there is listening, I've finished with all that. Thank you.
A message to everyone.
Yes.
Oh, okay. What would you like to accomplish or experience that you have not yet?
Oh, that is the easiest one. Travel.
Travel.
Travel, travel, travel. I had thoughts last year, if all had been well,
Right.
of going to Morocco. And of course that didn't happen, couldn't happen, obviously. And that's still in the works. And the other thing I want to do, and always want to do, is to live in a yurt
Yeah.
in Outer Mongolia.
Oh.
I really, really want to do that because the history of that area is very fascinating. And I want to go inside one of the Giza pyramids, you know, the entrances, and go inside. They say that you better not be claustrophobic, and I don't think I am. So
No.
those are some of the things I want to do. The yurt thing is something I really want to do. And then to live in a nice hotel in the south. So these are things that are in my bucket list. If not for COVID, and we'll see, because I'm not getting younger, obviously, as
None of us are,
see,
right?
Exactly. Yes. So my expiry date is looming up, you know. So I have to try and accomplish as many things as I can.
I think a lot of things will start opening up soon, and you know, everybody's getting a little bit more protected each day. So I think that a lot of these are very good goals to have, and I think it could happen soon.
Yes, because the travel is, there really is nothing like travel for me, you know. And I don't need company. That's another thing my friends don't understand. How can you go anywhere and you say you don't need, don't you want somebody to be with when you go for a play? Heaven forbid, no. I don't want anyone talking to me.
Sometimes you just have to enjoy your own company.
Yeah, and you enjoy the play or the musical or whatever it is. So that's what it is. But travel is what I'm looking forward to, really am.
So this is my last question for you. What advice or tips do you have for someone else that's getting into volunteer work?
That's another easy one, because I've met many people here who say, I'm so bored, you know, what is there to do here?
Right.
And I'm just, the question appalls me, and I'm thinking, you know, just pick a spot, any spot, you can do it. But the serious thing that I can tell people is, find out what excites you. If you love children, you want to be with children, volunteer at a library or at children's like Cooper Street. See your niche, fit in where you are, you know. And if you can't stand the little rugrats, don't have anything to do with children. Some people like older people, you know, read to them or write their letters for them. Just think, jam on your thinking cap and think, what excites me? If it's animals, go volunteer at the animal shelter. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I'll take another half an hour to list without taking a breath. You know, so there's so much to do, so much. So you find out within yourself what excites you. Unfortunately, in my case, everything excites me. It really does. It really, really, really does. Of course, unfortunately, I can't do anything about animals.
Well, thank you, Sushila, for all of your information today. And I just wanted to also thank you for being a part of the Historical Voyagers and my volunteer team with Charlotte County History Services. I know you've been working with myself as long as I've been here as the program coordinator, and I know years beyond that as well with, you know, the Adventure Museum and, you know, all of the changes over time that has happened with History Services here in Charlotte County. And I also want everybody to know, if you'd like even more information on Sushila's very interesting life, you can look up this book, The Ladies of Punta Gorda, which is actually in Mid-County Regional Library. It's available for checkout, and it's by local author Libby Schaefer. Very wonderful. Both of them are wonderful ladies that I've worked with over time, and you can read about Sushila here and some of the other wonderful women of Punta Gorda.
I'm on page 146.
Yes, page 146.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Krista.
much, and thank you all for watching today and learning a little bit more about one of our amazing volunteers and members of our community. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.